Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. Of course, it's the Thursday morning conversation on Rise and Shine, and we're beaming live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Thank you so very much for being there on the show this morning. We're delving into our interview segment, and we have Dr. Wisdom Enang joining us from Abuja this morning, himself an energy expert with several years of practice on his sleeve. We'll be having the conversation on the energy sector in Nigeria this morning, also particular issues as they affect Akwa Ibom State. Good morning, Dr. Enang. Good to have you on Rise and Shine. Good to have you. I should say Happy New Year. We haven't spoken to you in 2025. Thank you for all of your contributions in 2024.
Happy New Year, Doctor. I can literally see that you're smiling. I can feel that from your voice. So the year is starting on a good note.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, fantastic note.
So
Thank you.
I think I have a good news I want to share. I just want to, away from energy, let me pick your mind on something. This morning, as we opened the show on the fact that 22 of our Nigerian parlances and street slangs have made it to the Oxford Dictionary. Japa, 419 made it, several other words. How do you feel about this?
I think that's a good thing because it shows that there is an international acceptance of some of those Nigerian words. So that's a very good thing. And to be honest, it's made it there because not only is it well suited and apt for expressing those feelings or expressing those concepts, but when you look at it versus the competitiveness of other ways of expressing it, I think it comes out top. So that's a good thing for Nigeria. We're now exporting intellectual contents, and that's a good one.
Okay. Well, although some of the words should not have made it, we are glad that, like you said, we are exporting some of our intellectual content. But let's get to the main conversation that we have for you today. Over a week ago, the NNPCL chairman, GCO, I beg your pardon, Melekari, announced that the Warri refinery is up and running at over 60% capacity functionality. And Nigerians have received the news with just a little bit of excitement. On the heel of that, he talked about the fact that with no date promised in sight, the Kaduna refinery will be following on the heel of this particular opening. Now, for now, the only thing that has been taken from that refinery is the AGO, diesel as it were. PMS has not yet been released from the refinery. But my first question before you go into the detail would be, what is this administration doing differently that in all of the years that we've had conversations as to revamping our moribund refineries, it never worked? All of a sudden, the Tinubu-led administration has come, and we hear, we don't know if that's something you can verify vehemently, that the Port Harcourt refinery is working. Now the Warri refinery has followed, and Kaduna refinery will be following in suit. How has one administration been able to push this to become, to come alive in just almost a year, 2 years of its time in administration?
Well, I think it is important for me to state first and foremost that government is a continuum. And so the results that you see from the one administration may have actually started from a previous administration. So a number of things have come together to make this a phenomenal success. The first is the fact that with the Petroleum Industry Act being operationalized, we have liberated the downstream sector and have made it more competitive for people to come in and put money and make refining as a business work. And so there's a competitive case to make refineries work. Now, the second thing that we need to look at is the fact that a lot of these repairs for the government-owned refineries had already started before the Tinubu-led administration came in. And so what we're having is that the Tinubu-led administration has come in with the finisher's anointing to make sure that they consolidate on some of those work that has been done by the previous administration and get to a point where they make it work and operationalize it. And so consolidating means looking at some of the uh, commercial showstoppers. Commercial showstoppers like the deals that are required to make it work, like the crude for Naira deal. What exactly is going to be the problem militating against the commerciality of the refining business? And if you look at it, one of those problems was the fact that most of our inventory was earmarked for crude swap deals and exports. And so he came in with the crude for Naira swap deal, which means that there is more inventory in country. The other thing that you need to understand is that because we have deregulated that sector, and there is sort of some competition going on, although the competition has started between the imported options and the domestically refined option, we are seeing the pricing begin to modulate itself very quickly, much to the benefit of Nigerians. So what the administration has done is to say, what are the imperatives of a finisher? What do we need to be able to finish this up? Leveraging on the foundation that has already been laid by the previous administration by starting those repairs, and then finding out what to do going forward. One of the other things that has really helped is the fact that, again, as I said, there's competition from the external imported options in terms of the fuel that is coming in from abroad. And so the NNPCL has then seen that, look, we need to sit up, the Dangote refiners need to sit up in terms of pricing to make sure that not only do we have adequate supply, but at the right pricing that is favorable both to the producers and the consumers.
Okay, so one thing that is very, very critical, and one thing that energy consultants such as yourself has spoken to, which of course are the yearnings and the expectations of Nigerians, is price reduction. Everybody asserts that if we have, all of the refineries in Nigeria functioning, we should see a significant reduction in the price. But looking at the comment coming from Melekari and, the reality of things on ground, it seems we might never get to that point in Nigeria. And I'm saying that because the NNPCL has, through Melekari, said even if all the refineries were working, we will not see a price reduction. Do you see a different shift as we progress? And I'm asking that question based on what happened during the Yuletide, where we saw a Dangote refinery reduce its price and then NNPCL follows suit. Are we gearing towards seeing that kind of dynamics playing out, leading to price reduction for the betterment of Nigerians?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't agree that price reduction is not possible. I totally do not agree. The factors that would midwife price reduction are the first and foremost, as I said, the competition between the outer variant, the imported variant and the domestically produced options. That's the first thing that will midwife that price reduction. The second thing that I'm absolutely sure would midwife, the price reduction is the fact that the crude for Naira deal, if we can sustain it, because what the crude for Naira deal does is it saves us the cost of logistics and insurance and the middleman costs. If we can sustain that, then if we can increase our operations of scale, right, operations economies of scale, we can absolutely reduce the pricing. And it's been evident, right? Because let me tell you what happened. At first, the Dangote refinery was setting the prices at $970 to sell to major marketers. And then the major marketers were approached by the importers, by the guys that give them the imported fuel. And those guys said, what we can do is that we can give you a large inventory on a favorable commercial terms, meaning you can take it up, sell it, and give us money when you're ready. You can give us the money in Naira, and we'll sell it at 900 Naira per liter. That forced the Dangote refinery to now review their prices to 899.5. So what am I saying in a nutshell? Price reduction is possible, but I do agree that it's never going to be reduced to a point where it is lower than the cost of production, hence signaling the reintroduction of subsidies. That would never happen under a liberated regime. However, we can expect the prices to reduce to more suitable margins, and I'm talking about 850, 860 this year, if we can get all those factors to stay constant, even as we improve our production efficiency.
So the question is, in estimates now, what do you think that the probable window for production can be in Nigeria? First of all, we are blessed with an abundance of the natural resource of crude oil in our nation. And we may not have to, we are not, importing machines, as it were, at this time for, the, what's the technical word? It's eluding me. To getting the crude out of the ground. So we should hopefully be seeing relatively low pricing for production, which should further impact. Some experts are saying we should look forward to buying the commodity of PMS for as low as maybe 400 Naira or 500 Naira. If we benchmark there, it will be a lot easier for most Nigerians. Do you think that, we can find our way back to at least 400, 500 Naira? And recently, Governor Babagana Zulum did something for his state. He subsidized, the petrol to 600 Naira for some communities in his state to be able to leverage, on production. Don't you think that it is in the capacity of the federal government and the NNPCL to really reconsider the pricing for the commodity?
Yeah, but you see, the thing is this, right? Understand that the ship has set sail. We have moved away from price control to a liberated market where everyone just sets whatever happens. But thankfully, the pricing is being checked. One person is checking the other. For example, the Dangote refinery pricing would influence the pricing of the NNPCL, not directly but indirectly. And the pricing of the NNPCL and Dangote refinery will be checked by the international marketers who import, fuel inside the country. Now, I mean, like I said, there is no way you can drop the pricing below the cost of production without introducing subsidies. The question as to whether those subsidies are introduced on a production basis and they stay so, or they are introduced on a consumption basis is very debatable. Because at the end of the day, subsidies in itself is not a bad thing. What is bad is the fact that subsidies are being implemented in a very, very, I think in a way that shows wastage. That's what happened in the Nigerian story. We had subsidy that was implemented in such a way that it benefited not only Nigeria but West Africa through smuggling. We also had fake subsidy slips being put forward. And then, of course, we did not even have a handle on the cost, on the actual consumption of PMS in Nigeria, which is very bad. So today you are hearing 100 million, next tomorrow 60 million. And now we've heard that the consumption of PMS has dropped by 90%, meaning most of it was actually bogus consumption. So the truth be told, I think the real key to dropping the pricing of PMS is when a number of factors come to play. When we enhance our production efficiency, that's one. Two is when other energy options begin to come into competition, that we then begin to have energy transition, and people can then look up to having alternative forms of energy, which is obtainable in developing countries like Indonesia, India. They have other forms of energy. So the pricing would not be unnecessarily increased for PMS if there is CNG and LPG to be used. Then the third thing that is very sure we can get is if we can get to a point where our production of crude gets to about, say, 2.5 million barrels per day, we can afford to provide that crude for refining at a subsidized rate. But that is not something we can do on the immediate because Nigeria is trying to seal all the leakages and increase its foreign reserve as well as have money to fund its budget. A lot of our budget is funded by borrowed funds, And so we're still in a point where we cannot, become very charitable with the economics, at least for now.
Okay, so we continue to also have major concerns as to what exactly is being produced in these refineries that are now up and running in the country. The Port Harcourt refinery in context, and now the Warri refinery. There's a lot more work that Nigerians would have hoped that, the company would have been doing, but it looks like we are still we still have a long walk to freedom. Now, Mele Kyari had said we have heavy naphtha that is being produced. Currently, we have low poor fuel oil that is being produced, and also the HHK, and also automotive gasoline oil, as it were. What do you think is the production line that is delaying PMS from being taken from these refineries? Now, this also covers for the area V of the Port Harcourt refinery, as it were.
Right. I mean, PMS is usually one of the last things that are being produced. And the reason is because you find out that with PMS, there's a lot more that you need to, like a lot of equipment that is required for you to be able to start producing PMS. And generally, it is usually the last. You can check the facts. The Dangote refinery, for example, started with diesel and the heavier oils before moving into PMS. So I don't think it's an indication of a problem. I think we rather plan and get it right than to hurry and get it wrong. So I think we just need to exercise patience. Eventually, it will come round.
Eventually, it will get right. All right, then. There's a lot more questions that we're still going to go. But let's get to conversations by the Minister for Gas, Ekpe. Some conversations that we've been having, especially on the front line of things here in Akwa Ibom State. We're talking about where the balance and the place of politics in fuel subsidy conversations, and how politics has also affected the conversation on subsidy in Akwa Ibom State, and maybe we extend it to Nigeria. We'll give voice to some of his comments, and then we'll take Dr. Wisdom Enang's reaction in a moment.
Yeah, NNPC, to talk with a major investor in the FBI steel processing plant, the cleaner part of it, because we have gas. I met with the owners of the company, and they are coming to invest about $4 billion in Akwa Ibom State. The governor of Akwa Ibom State is aware of it, the Senate president is aware of it. This is what we are. And when we bring this to Akwa Ibom, what does it translate to us? It will create job opportunities. Now, Akwa Ibom will become a destination, because for exportation of those steel to other parts of the world, destination will be Akwa Ibom State, which will be enough for us. Then on the area of domestic gas, you saw sometimes in collaboration with Decade of Gas, we look for some investors to bring out money. We buy cylinders, fill them, to preach the gospel of clean cooking. Because if you sit down for the specialists to tell you the hazard of using charcoal, kerosene in the home, my brother, you will look for something to sell to save the life of your wife in the kitchen. Because what they breathe in, it doesn't happen immediately, but after a period of time, you will see all these sicknesses that our people are passing through. It is related to burning of charcoal. They sniff the smoke, it goes in. No, I'm not a smoker. Why am I suffering from this? It's from the kitchen. And we know smokers are likely to die young. That means your wives in the kitchen are liable to die young because of the smoke. So we decided to demonstrate that LPG penetration. We have gone to about 4 states now. As we move into 2025, we'll go to other states within the northern zone. We have come to Akwa Ibom State to demonstrate that. Under CNG, which I told you earlier, it is cleaner, it is safer and cheaper. But in Akwa Ibom State, we cannot benefit solely from all the incentive that the federal government has rolled out in the CNG sector, because we don't have mother station. The cost of the kits, operational kits, is equally expensive. But they have devised a means to give it to transport union groups to subsidize and give it to them. Akwa Akwa Ibom people cannot benefit, because if you collect this thing, even the ones that labor union collected, that they distributed to some state, they converted, they're using fuel, petrol, not gas, because of unavailability of gas. So my project now is on how we can establish mother stations across the entire nation. That was why I told you that gas project is not going into the shop and procuring it, then you go back and start to use it. By February, we will do groundbreaking of CNG station in Akwa Ibom State. That is going to be sponsored by NNBC. I've brought another investor to the governor of Akwa Ibom State, Sterling Global, to come and dialogue with Akwa Ibom State government, to come and establish another CNG stations in Akwa Ibom State, so that by the time the state government that is ready to procure this CNG, they will have stations to drive in and buy your CNG and continue your movement. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the government is thinking positively for the good of its own people. And I cannot be there without serving my own state. I'm trying my best to see how I can serve my state in that sector. The outfit for the change of the kits, I've approved 2 centers. Dr. Emmanuel Okon is instrumental to that. They came and did the inspection. Where these kits, when they come in, the one that the federal government is importing, they will shift it to Akwa Ibom as well as other states. Then you take your vehicle there, either to go and buy, because it is not for private individuals. We cannot buy for private individuals. The cost is very, very expensive. So what they are doing is they give assistance to the universities, they give assistance to road transport workers. State government will key into it. By the time we have about 3 mother stations in Akwa Ibom State, you can have 30 or more daughter stations. But we need to, like the But when you get into the atmosphere, the whole thing circulates like that, because it is one sun that serve Nigeria, serve America, serve UK, serve any the Asian countries. It is one sun, and the whole thing circulates like that. So Mr. President said, we cannot continue to do it this way. Let him withdraw the oil subsidy. Use the money to develop some other critical sectors. Then develop the gas. The gas is environmental friendly, cleaner fuel, transition fuel, and it is cheaper than fuel, than petrol. Like equivalent of 1 liter of gas, maybe less than, you can have it at 200, 300 naira. Whereas the fuel we are talking about 900 naira to 1,000. So you can see the difference. Beyond this, in your vehicle that you are driving, you are using gas and I'm using petrol. I will go for servicing up to 4 times. You that is using gas, you will not go for servicing, because it burns clean. It burns clean. It doesn't adulterate your engine oil at all, because it is gas. When it burns, it gets out. And at the exhaust pipe of your vehicle, what will come out of it is water. Whereas that of petrol will bring out carbon monoxide. That is why you see people die when they put generator in a room and burn it. If you put a generator that is driven by gas and that of petrol, that petrol is dangerous. That of gas can burn till the following day, nothing happens there. It is cheaper, it is cleaner. The global world is talking about energy transition. Energy transition from what? From fossil fuel of petrol to gas to hydrogen. So
well, the Minister of Petroleum Resources, Gas, they're speaking to the things that his office as the pioneer Minister of Petroleum Resources, Gas, has been able to do and what he's been up to within the period of time he stayed in office. Dr. Wisdom, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Hello, Dr. Wisdom.
Yes, loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Okay. We're going to be able to connect with Dr. Wisdom once he's back, fire some questions. But some of the things that have been highlighted by Ekperibebo focuses on the development of gas in Nigeria. In Africa, we're told we're second, and of course, and then globally, we're ninth in terms of the quantity of gas reserve that we have in the country. And when you also place it side by side, the benefit of gas and other sources of energy, including the CNG vehicles that we talked about, from the perspective of the minister, the benefit of utilizing gas, whether it's CNG or LPG, is for the betterment of Nigerians, and it's a lot more, is a lot more cost effective, especially when you look at how much amount of money you're going to spend per liter of the premium motor spirit and compare that to gas. And then you're also looking at the lifespan of how much 1 kg of gas would take you and 1 liter of premium motor spirit would take you. And then you look at, he also talked about the effect that would have on the vehicles. Dr. Enang, good morning once again. Good to have you back.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Okay, so the Minister of Petroleum Resources has highlighted some things. I'd like to start from the CNG conversation. Recall in Akwa Ibom State, one of the things Governor Moino said was that we're going to have the state government provide CNG buses to aid transportation as part of palliative since the emergence of the increment of the fuel prices. But Akwa Ibom people, even I think it was 2 days ago, we spoke with the NLC chairman, Comrade Sonny James, consistently said there is a need for the Akwa Ibom State government to bring to bear these promised CNG buses. But in his speech, the Minister for Petroleum Resources highlighted the fact that in Akwa Ibom, so far, we do not have where we can refill our vehicles for those who convert their fuel tanks to CNG. And that the federal government, under his ministry, is moving to establish that, not just in Akwa Ibom, but across the different states of the Federation. How do you see this working? And then, of course, putting that with the fact that he has stated, for us to be able to get to a point where all of us can enjoy the investment in gas, is going to take an upward of 2 years plus.
Yes, absolutely. I think, both the governor and the minister are going to find it very important to work together. The governor is going to be at the tail end of providing that, CNG support to alleviate the lives of the average Akwa Ibomite. But then that's going to be, building on the infrastructural support that is going to be provided by help the Minister for State Gas, Petroleum State Gas. So what we're finding is the two have to work together, clearly. So whilst the state government, I think let's put it in context, whilst the state government is trying to build all of these, getting the buses in place, maybe they've placed orders and the buses are being made for the state, and because it's a long lead item, effectively. I think what the minister is saying is that whilst waiting for that to mature, he's already looking at plans to make sure that there is an infrastructure available to support the sustainability of these buses when it eventually comes. Let it not be misunderstood to mean that because of lack of infrastructure that Akwa Ibom State is not or already going ahead with the plans to get the CNG buses. And I'll give you context. The reason is there are different technologies, like what we call the virtual pipeline technologies, that you can deploy, even when you do not have infrastructure as we know it. So what I mean is you can have maybe a mother station that produces CNG somewhere else, And then you have a truck, a mega truck, that has a CNG buffer storage and has a compressor at the end of it. And so imagine if the government of Akwa Ibom State buys CNG buses and parks it at a central location. We could, in fact, have a big CNG tanker that has CNG on it, and at the end, it has a compressor. And it will load CNG from, say, Port Harcourt, come there to the central location and be on standby, and all those buses will come there and be refueled. Why do I have to put this in context? So that people don't go ahead thinking, why would the government sanction a project when the infrastructural imperatives are not there to support that project? No, that's not true. The infrastructural imperatives are things you can fix using technology, definitely when the right time comes. So, but the long lead item is actually the CNG trucks themselves. But it is proactive and very welcoming to see that the Minister for State is trying to use his gas, is trying to use his capacity to complement that of the governor in providing better lives for Akwa Ibomites.
In talking about better lives for Nigerians, it's been almost 2 years of the Tinubu-led administration, and on the heels of, removal of fuel subsidies, CNG buses and subsidies for transportation were quickly promised, and we have not seen, these promises being delivered upon, at not even the closest to 30% across the nation. Because you just cited to having some infrastructure in place and catching up on the technological needs that will make it run better. Is it about what exactly is hampering the delivery of CNG buses nationwide, including state governments being able to provide this? Is it about political willpower? Is it the shortfall of money? Is it the gas infrastructure? Now, Ekwe continues to talk about the fact that Nigeria does have the highest cubic reserve for, gas on the continent, but we haven't even started exploring that just yet. What are some of the factors that you think can make us work closer to making life better for an average Nigerian?
Yeah, so first and foremost, you have to understand the tripod of energy, which is availability, accessibility, and affordability. And if you put it maybe as a quadrilemma, you would have to add the acceptability components. Now, availability is there. Availability, potentially is there because it's a reserve, right? But affordability has been established. CNG, very affordable, 213 Naira per liter equivalent of CNG versus about 960 Naira per liter equivalent of PMS. So CNG is affordable. But when you do not have availability and accessibility, that's where the problem is. Now, as to why that has not been delivered in the way it was thought about, like I said, CNG buses are not things that you buy off the shelf. These are, if you want to get the best deal, they're probably most likely long lead items that you would need to place an order for. Because otherwise, if you're buying enough quantity, you might as well place an order directly with the company. If you're going to buy through the middlemen or the car stands, then you're going to pay much, much higher premiums that could have been avoided. So that's one possibility, just starting from the lowest possibility. Now, the infrastructure remains a problem. It's becoming a chicken and egg game, right? And which is going to come first? Is it the chicken or the egg? Now, the state government could potentially say, well, we want to do CNG buses, but we're waiting to make sure there's going to be infrastructure. Now, this is me talking generally, not about my state, Akwa Ibom State, or any other state. The state government could say, well, we're waiting to see when the federal government finally deploys facilities that will help us refuel. And the federal government could be saying, well, what is the conversion rate like in that state? How many people are using CNG? Okay, let's focus on towns or states like Lagos State and metropolis like Abuja, and that has CNG already. And when we see enough conversion, we'll go to that a particular state. But what I'm trying to say is that we need to think outside the box and understand that with technology, we can solve this problem. You can order the buses. It's a long lead item. Whilst the buses are coming on, you can reconfigure a truck to be like a daughter station. It has a huge reserve of CNG in there and has a compressor and comes in there and delivers CNG into the buses, the CNG buses. So I think that a bit of a chicken and egg game is possible when it has to do with the deployment, who's going to go first. But I think both parties can come together and look at using technology to break some of these bureaucracies and get solutions issued to Nigerians.
Okay. We do hope that we can get the solutions to Nigerians as soon as possible. I hope it's not something we begin to see at the end of the Tinubu-led administration. If we follow by your words, Doctor, we should hope that at the beginning of May 2023, they had placed orders for the CNG buses. And maybe at the end of the second year of their tenure, we should see a delivery of these buses to Nigeria and a vast increase in how we are harnessing our gas. But let's move to money talk in the energy sector, which seems to be a critical matter of concern. Whether or not these moribund refineries are now up and working, we have a lot of financial deficits and conversations around the NNPC in context. We are looking at the fact that NNPC owes about $14 billion in loans with future productions as collateral. Now, why I want us to talk about this is in the face of us having our refineries hopefully up and running, 3 of them at the end of, let's say, 2025. What happens to all of this debt that we are owing to international, other nations of the world with future productions as collateral? First of all, are we even producing enough to consume, then export, and be able to relinquish on the collateral that we had placed on our crude?
All right, so I think we're definitely doing something better than we used to. Our production has increased right now beyond the 1.4 million barrels that we saw. There was a time we had hit 1.7. There's not much you can do because unlike debts that is owed to, let's say, the World Bank or the IMF, where you can ask for them to knock off your debts. I don't think some of the people that we've gotten loans from in recent times that is as straightforward as that. That being said, I think if we can block the leakages, if we can, increase our production, meaning that whatever we give out doesn't affect the funding that we still need to run the economy, I think there are always possibilities for us to go on to restructure our debt. And with debt restructuring, I'm talking about the fact that we go on to, get maybe a cheaper source of loan, right, to offset whatever source we had gotten previously. And then that way we can get a sustainable pathway to becoming debt-free. But you cannot go and then, you cannot go back and have your cake after you've eaten it. Unfortunately, we have to get through a very painful path of recovery. But with some sort of being savvy, I think we can navigate that point. Like I said, restructuring our debt is very important, making sure we block the leakages and making sure we boost our earnings.
Blocking our debt. I hope that that's something that, the likes of Medicare, who I want you to comment to. Nigerians are still growingly asking that he be taken off as GCO. But I was asking Francis the other day, Nigerians have been asking for the neck of Medicare for the longest time, but he has delivered. Like you said, it's a continuum, but we can say that Medicare has delivered to us 2 half-working refineries. The third is coming. Should Nigerians still be asking for his head on a platter? Nigerians have been asking for him to go for the longest of times. He turned 60 yesterday.
Yeah, I think that is still debatable, but to be honest, I think the president is going to be in the right position to make that call, because you have to balance, the value that is brought to the table, the value for the future, and the need for continuity in terms of looking at succession. Do we need a younger blood that is going to bring some vibrance or different ideologies to the table? Has he given up to his maximum capacity, and is there much to give? So I think that's the president's call to make. But I think he has done his bit, given the challenges and the tools at his disposal.
Okay. I think we'll just wrap up the conversation in a moment. But two things. Let's get back to the Warri refinery that is working. Because since it was our start conversation, I'd like for us to end there. What expectations should Nigerians really have? Because Nigerians are hopeful. If we have Port Harcourt working, we have Warri working. Kaduna joins soon. Dangote is working. Hopefully we should see, petrol price come down, and which will invariably hit on what we are experiencing as inflation in the nation. But there is a clause that seems to be problematic. Communities around the Warri refinery are asking that their youths be paid, their unemployed youth should be paid monthly stipends. And experts are saying that these practice is not seen anywhere in the world, where because a refinery is sited in your community, everybody gets paid. How can we leverage? Because we're also seeing if the refinery is working, unemployment in these areas should drastically reduce. You're going to need somebody to do one or two, or even get into food business of their own.
I see the call for communities, but I think we need to move away from the rent-seeking idea, where we are entitled to a point where we are competitive, and whatever we get is on the basis of competitiveness. I think that's my word to everybody. The rent-seeking mentality isn't going to help Nigeria in its entirety. What is going to help Nigeria is making sure that, there is this merit-driven approach, and that regardless of whether you're entitled to something, you work for it and show that you have competitive value to offer.
Okay, competitive value to offer. I hope Nigerian youths are widely awake on that. Okay, just to say the list, Dr. Wisdom, and there's a rising alarm with gas explosions in Nigeria. Early on this week or over the weekend, we had some videos making the rounds on the internet space. And in having conversations with people yesterday, people are growingly concerned. Are we really ready to use gas in this country? And, over the last couple of years, with the introduction of gas cylinders in homes, we've not seen the spate of accidents that we are seeing. What are the probable causes, and what should people do differently?
I think gas has a lot of safety, characteristics, but very unforgiving if you use it wrongly. I think before people use gas, they should get to familiarize themselves, understand how the technology works, and again, make sure that gas, when they're using gas, that there is an intentional, approach towards ensuring that the cylinders are inspected for any leaks, and they patronize people that are selling certified cylinders and not just quacks, because the biggest risk of gas isn't just really fire, it's explosion. And that comes where you put in compressed gas into a cylinder that is not rated for the maximum allowable working pressure.
Okay, so Doctor, going by what you've said, just before we let you go this morning, I'd like to come back to the comment made by the Honourable Minister Gas, the move by the federal government to incentivize, give gas cylinders to Nigerians and ensure that everybody in the gospel of converting to cleaner energy using gas spreads across. Do you think there is also a need, judging from the last comment you've said, or picking from the last comment you've said, for the Ministry of Petroleum Resources Gas to also invest into awareness creation so Nigerians can be in the know about the basic things to look out for as we are progressing and converting or, moving from
kerosene,
stove, charcoal to gas.
Absolutely. I mean, those are part of the imperatives that are required. And in fact, if you look at lessons learned reviews from other nations, those are part and parcel of what other nations have done and why they have succeeded. Sensitization of the public, of the consumer public, is a very critical part of it. And I think the government needs to, in addition to that, I think they need to forge alliances with several advocacy groups, some of them professional, like the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Nigerian Society of Safety Engineers, and all other, engineering-related groups that would anchor programs to educate the public about the use and the imperatives for the utilization of gas technologies safely.
Okay, there's a lot of things that we keep expecting. We do hope that we can collectively, make this education possible. Thank you so much, Dr. Wisdom Enang, for coming on board this morning. I think I should also ask, generally, as your last words to us on the show this morning, what should Nigerians expect? What should our posture be in anticipation of energy progression in 2025? What should our expectations be?
I think there's a lot of prospects in 2025. A lot of opportunities will open up. The gas sectors, a lot of upstream activities with the $5 billion Bonga North project that has been sanctioned. They've reached a final investment decision. I think we're in for a very massive year. And I think that's something to be proud of. A lot of activities in the downstream sector. We see a lot of indication that BUA is building facilities. So definitely, I'm absolutely confident that we are going to make this year a very fantastic year.
A better energy year for every one of us. Thank you so much, Dr. Wisdom, and an energy expert, for joining us this morning on the show. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right, then, great conversation, lots of safety, lots of expectation. We do hope that the price of the commodity can come down if the NNPCL and everyone who is in that sector puts in, their mind to the work and make sure that the production cost is not manipulated to stay high so that the price of the commodity remains high at the expense of the people who have to use it every now and then. Let's hope that Melekari and Co. do a better work with the energy sector in 2025. But that's where we wrap it up on the interview segment for this morning. We're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we'll be getting to the front pages of our national dailies to see what's available for discuss. Stay with us.